It's time to adjust those shoulder pads, backcomb what's left of your hair, and jump into the DeLorean for a look back at what's possibly the best decade anyone could ever have grown up in.
Shall we play a game?
This is Bring Back the 80s with your hosts James Alderson and me, Andy Jackson. Welcome to a brand new podcast. I'm Andy Jackson off the radio on the South Coast. This is James Alderson, comedy supremo off the South Coast as well. So this is our new podcast.
It is, Andy. It is a long time in the making. Getting to this point, rumoured, demanded that we didn't do it, but we're still doing it, aren't we?
We better explain where we are as well. Thanks to the lovely people at Spring Arts in Havant.
Yeah.
They said come and use our cafe, so we said we'll do that. Bring on the coffee
and cake. Yeah,
and
we've done all that.
So what this is about, basically, is we're both kind of similar ages. I think I'm slightly older than you.
A little bit, Andy. Thanks, mate.
But we did kind of grow up in the 80s. I think I was probably at the mid-80s. I was probably just about starting my first marriage.
Oh, wow.
Kind of thing. Yes, I was an early starter.
Early adopter.
Making lots of life mistakes. But there we go. That's it is what it is. But we're just going to kind of talk about different things from the 80s and how things have changed. And, of course, you've brought a lot of things with you as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell I was a kid in the 80s, so I went from being sort of 6 to 16. So we're covering both demographics, aren't we, Andy?
I think so.
I was messing about and setting fire to stuff, and you were
making baby.
I think by the end of the 80s I was giving it a go, but not at the beginning.
Expensive hobby.
Hobby wow. To have. Okay.
But just to let you know what's going on this as well, we've got a little competition.
Right.
We haven't even discussed a prize for the competition, but I'm thinking a pair of tickets to one of your shows of somebody's choice.
At least one ticket.
Yeah.
At least one.
Ticket, and they can, you can chip in for the other one if you want to.
Yeah.
But it'll all become clear as we go along. We are literally making this up as we go along.
Why not?
Well.
That's what it's all about.
We're going to sort of bring, hopefully, over the next days, weeks, months, years, if this continues, we're going to bring back all kinds of memories of what it was like.
Yeah.
A bit about yourself as well, James. You grew up in this area?
Yeah, I grew up in Havant, so this is my, I am the hometown underdog. So I remember walking past here when it was town council building and then shut down, boarded up, and then it said Arts Centre coming soon. I think that was probably late 80s, early 90s. And I remember thinking, what the bloody hell is an Arts Centre? I don't think, well, in the 90s, there wasn't such a thing. And then they started cropping up everywhere. So we got this lovely old building now, which is wonderful. So I grew up in Havant, so this is wonderful to do it here. And my 80s memories are firmly in this town.
At the time, I was millions of miles away in London, growing up in a not particularly salubrious part of South London, shall we say, but that was where my memories were. And then I moved, and slowly but surely over the years, as different things happened, I sort of worked my way up to the Midlands, and then sort of down to Bournemouth. Spent a couple of years in Bournemouth on a radio station that's no longer in Bournemouth. Now I'm in sort of like on one of the radio stations on the South Coast.
Yeah.
That is here, and I've been there now for 24 years.
Yeah.
Which is bonkers.
It's all my life.
Bonkers.
I am only 24, obviously. But yeah. Well, you've had a life, Andy. I've not moved. I have moved. I've been about, but where's better than Havant?
Where is that's one of those questions that actually is no odds.
It's rhetorical. Yeah. There is no odds required, and that pause there was said it enough, Andy. Oh dear.
Do you do? I mean, we're pretending that this is how bizarre is this that we're sitting in a cafe doing a podcast?
Yeah.
And we've already met some interesting people, haven't we?
Yeah.
And somebody who's going to be putting on an exhibition of people who were here in the 80s when they were working at IBM, when IBM was a thing.
Oh, wow. So, yeah. It was big.
All kinds of memories from that era to come.
Yeah.
But also, not just things, not just... some of the things that you might have played with or might have used as you've grown up as well, but some of the sounds as well
you
don't hear anymore. So I'm going to just throw a mystery sound in your direction if I can.
Yeah, go for it.
And see if you can recognise what this is. This is for you at home as well. If you can recognise this, we know what it is, but we're not going to say what it is. So if you at home know what this is, let us know. We'll tell you how to communicate with us via the websites, via the Twitters, via the Facebook, Cokes and all that kind of stuff as well.
Got it.
This is a particular sound that might bring back a little bit of a memory with the jingling of the cups going on in the background as well. Hopefully we'll be able to hear this. Here it comes. If you grew up in the 80s, you will know exactly what the sound is.
Yeah.
It does take a while, those. I'm going to say it's definitely not a washing machine.
No.
But if you know what that is, best thing to do is drop us a little message and let us know. And then in the next podcast, we will let you know who's right. We'll do a draw out of everybody who's right.
Yeah.
And they will get, 10 tickets to one of your shows?
100 tickets to one of my tour shows.
So we'll sort that out. But I mean, if you were around in the 80s, you would definitely know what that sound is.
Yeah, I might enter that. I've just spilled coffee everywhere, so I'm a real pro at this.
At least you got a black T-shirt on, so it's up the shop. I made the rookie mistake of wearing something different. So that is it's not going to be this colour by the end of by the end of this podcast.
No.
So if you just joined us, if you tuned in somehow halfway through this podcast, it's me, Andy Jackson. We've got James Alderson here, comedy star supremo. We're in Spring Arts in Haverford at the moment, just sort of giving a little taste of what we were doing in the 80s and the different things that were going up. So as I said, I've brought a sound, which is our mystery sound, which I will repeat a little bit later on as well. But you've brought some items as well. Would you like to choose one of your mystery items from the 80s?
Well, where do you begin, really? I mean, I think I'm going to go with the Speak and Spell. The Speak and Spell was like a classic.
Hold it up to the camera.
Gadget.
There.
Classic. Which way shall I show you? That way. Speak and Spell. Right. It's one of those devices. A device. It's not really even a device, is it?
It's like a computer. That's not a computer. It was a game.
It was like a weapon, really. I mean, you just held it and just swung it about, and it was made of. I don't know what it was made of. They made the space shuttle with it, I think. I don't know, but it's one of those things that I never had. You know, this wasn't mine. I don't think I know anyone who had it. It was always a friend of a friend, and you went around their house and they had it. They had the money to have this wonderful thing, and it was but it was utterly pointless, really. You just pressed it and tried to make it say rude words. It never did. But it was just. I got fascinated with it because I found I'd go around people's houses and they'd have the stuff that I always wish I had, you know, like asteroid games and the Pac-Man Munch thing, and I love it. But yeah, this is just absolutely brilliant. They did a maths one apparently. Never saw that. See,
this was back when sort of like Toys for Home was still supposed to be a little bit education.
Yeah,
that was the whole point. That it was, you know, obviously now. Given up, just consume rubbish,
just trash,
Instagram, and you know that's it. You just sit on your phone, and you just use your thumb, and actually just go round and round and round. In these days, they were trying to, convince the parents that it was going to be education, and it was going to help. As the very fact that they made a maths one of those as well.
Yeah, I know. And then the thing the thing that demonstrates that they gave up at the end of the ice is in 1990 the Game Boy came out, and that was just the end of any education whatsoever. Handheld, we've given up. The 80s are over. Have this, and the kids can piss off. Have that, and go and sit in the posh front room on your own.
Isn't it funny how you've changed as well? Because but back in the 80s, parents would tell their kids to stop watching TV.
Yeah.
But now it's get off your phone, isn't it? Now?
Yeah. Well, they'd say if you get any closer, you get square eyes.
Yeah.
You couldn't get any closer to a bloody phone now. The kids have literally come here, and their eyes are fine. So I'm now going to sue my parents. I could have been right up close to that telly. I mean, why it made a difference, I don't know. In fact, my telly, you could actually wheel it closer to you. You didn't have to get closer to it because it was all on wheels.
The default position for watching the TV was to be lying on the floor.
Yeah.
With you literally as close as you could, like looking up at it like that. So that was the default position to watch whatever was on.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? I don't know why that helped. Because it was, I mean, there wasn't as big a screen, was it? But I don't think. I mean, mind you, do kids do that now? I think little kids probably still do lay on the floor. There's something magical about being upside down on the sofa with your head upside down and watching something. Kids do that, but when you get to a certain age, of course, they never leave their room. And now they've all got tellies in their rooms or on the walls or something. But yeah, I know.
We did have a very reduced number of channels didn't we? Because at the moment, we've got like literally hundreds and hundreds, millions and thousands of things to choose from. Most of it trying to sell us toots, to be quite fair. But back in those days, you had to choose your TV. You had to watch what was given to you at a particular time,
and you'd sit with your parents, wouldn't you? As well,
play a little clip and see if this rings any bells with anybody at all. It starts like this. I mean, it was. Oh my God! Just reveal what that TV show is.
Yes, well, that's great, Jill. It's absolute. I mean, that was where you ran into the room as soon as you heard that. That was the beginning of it. That was everything stopped. You just ran up the hall or ran to the loo quickly, had a quick wee, and then went and sat down with your bag of crisps and just brilliant. But I mean, it epitomised 80s schools as well. So,
absolutely.
Everybody had a school like that.
The interesting thing is as well is that you can actually find, if you go onto YouTube, you can find the whole of the series.
Wow.
Right from episode 1, series number 1. And you look at some of the people, who were in it as small children, now playing old people in EastEnders.
Don't say that. I know.
Yeah.
I look at people every now and again and go, who's that old bloke? And then I find out it's an old...
It's you.
It's a reflection. Shut up, Andy. No, it's an old schoolmate. Or I think, God, they think I look at somebody and thinking they're younger than me and they're older than me, and that just shows how deluded I am.
Yeah. I mean, it is the stereotypical thing. All the policemen look like they're 12 years old.
They do, though. Well, I haven't seen a policeman for 5 years, but you're not
around here. They don't dare to. Don't dare to come around.
Follow me. They don't come around where I live, mate. But no, it just shows that 80s was a long, long time ago. But then the thing I was saying the other day is, when I was in the 80s, they didn't sort of celebrate the 40s. Nobody had 1940s parties when we were kids and stuff. But the kids these days are loving the 80s. It's great. Some of the tracks that they're playing are 80s, and some of the styles are 80s. It's great. I'm loving it.
Why do you think that is, though? Is that because we were, back in the 80s, we were just beginning to be able to do things that perhaps young people hadn't been allowed to do?
I think the 70s was still clinging onto an air of the 60s a bit. I think the 80s, you went from sort of the Carpenters to bloody Essex Express. I mean, the 80s decade was massive change, wasn't it? Microwaves and the first CD and these things started coming out. And like I say, at the end of the 80s, you had the Game Boy. Things really started changing in the 80s. So I think that it was looked upon as a real dawn of change.
Definitely.
Definitely.
I did say that I was going to give a little reminder of our mystery sound again, so I'm going to do this another time just before the end.
I'm not 100% certain on this, Andy. I'll be honest.
You missed it. So, I mean, it would be a thing that, you would take one of these from a certain store maybe and bring it back home, but you wouldn't necessarily keep it, would you?
Right, okay,
so this is the sound. Here it comes. What I will say is, if you had to make the sound the moment you got it, the person who had it before you hadn't done what they should have done.
They got fined.
Yeah. You should do this when you finish doing what you're going to do with this item. It's too blatantly obvious.
Well, the problem is, 50 pence was a lot of money back then.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't want to whack one of those fines on you.
Why?
And actually, it was, to be honest, I remember, I got it out there, I think, with the ZX81 and the Spectrum and stuff. The tape that you were playing was such a crucial part about how you played it and the way you played tapes and the little spindles, and our lives seem to revolve around those little things being perfect. Whether you ejected the tape from your car and it pumped the plastic out and the tape was still stuck inside, or you're spinning it on your pencil, whatever you were doing.
It was like they were designed to fit perfectly. This is audio cassettes, which that wasn't an audio cassette by the way. But audio cassettes it seemed like they were designed either for a biro or for a pencil, so you could wind them by hand.
Certainly tighten it if it got really, really loose. But I remember with the Spectrum, you had to play you had to load up the game. You had to play it, but you had to have the volume and stuff at a certain levels for it to work, or it would fail and crash. And you'd like, oh my God, I can't imagine kids having the patience for waiting for 20 minutes for something to load now.
It would take you 20 minutes to load the tape, and the sound would be coming in on the tape.
Yeah.
And you would have to wait, and then right at the very end, you'd find out that for some reason, nobody would know what that reason was.
No.
But that particular time,
Yeah.
it hadn't worked. So
Yeah.
you could rewind the tape and then do the whole thing again.
You had the
And it
trick
would
was if you weren't looking at the screen constantly with the moving lines and giving yourself some sort of seizure, then if you weren't doing that, it wouldn't load. So as a 8-year-old just staring at the screen hoping, it was one of those magic eye things. You sometimes see dolphins and stuff, but that was probably just a 20 minutes of staring at flashing lights. But yeah, it was, you just prayed, didn't you? Sometimes I remember as a kid, I'd find myself just watching it for 45 minutes and just think, oh shit, this is not going to load, is it?
To be fair, there was not a lot else to do. Then, that was it, watching random strings of characters on your TV did class as entertainment because you were hoping for something at the end. I mean, so we've already touched on the Sinclair and loading up the games as well.
Yeah.
Would you like to pick out of this cornucopia of props that you bought another thing that to you would just literally sum up the 80s for us?
I think this has got to be it. Somebody gave me this, which is the Live Aid special. I think, was it the News? I think it might be the News that did it. Yes, the News. Look at that. And this is an original. Can I show that for that one as well? This is an original. And when was Live Aid? 80.
I should know this with my job.
Somebody's going to it's going to have a date on here. Hold on. Hold on. There won't be a date. Is there going to be a date? There might not be a date. This is great, isn't it?
There's got to be a date on there.
Now,
this is where we need to research a little bit before we got a podcast.
What we need is people who know the 80s. That's what you'd think
people who know the 80s are people ideally who play music every day.
That would be brilliant.
Yeah.
What would be really good is if a commemorative newspaper pullout of Live Aid would have the date on it. And
we're going to be mocked now on Twitter for not knowing the date of this. Absolutely mocked.
Well, the News is going to get it in the neck as well. I know them. I'm going to have a chat with them about why the hell they've not further. 1985.
There we go.
July 13th. In tiniest little text on the inside back cover. There we go. Celebrate. No, I mean, what was I? 10? And I don't think I watched it, I'll be absolutely honest. Obviously, we've all seen it since, bits of it since. But that was a real sort of, I don't know, it was a real celebration and culmination of everything great about what I consider to be true 80s sort of music. I was only just getting into music then. One of my favourite bands were probably Five Star or someone like that in the 80s. It's always a real, it's just nonsense, isn't it? But Live Aid was coming together of all the
nothing like that had ever been done before.
No.
Ever.
And properly ever since, really. Not really.
I mean, the thing is, if anybody ever tries to recreate that, it's always going to be compared to that one with Freddie Mercury, with Elton John, with
Paul McCartney, everyone. Yeah, you name it. And I think getting it together and getting it organised pretty quickly as well. That was pretty amazing, wasn't it? The whole thing, really. I just think, and these sorts of things you don't get anymore, do you? Pull out newspaper celebration things, because kids don't buy papers and kids aren't interested in anything that doesn't last more than 30 seconds. So this is a bygone era. Pull out newspaper specials of some events.
The whole thing about as well, if for some reason you're listening to this podcast and you weren't around when this happened, I don't know why this would be.
Get on with your life. Do something else.
It was, not only did it happen in London, but it also happened in Philadelphia, the other side of the world. Was it? I think it was it Phil Collins who did both?
Somebody did both. Yeah.
Hopped on Concorde.
Yeah.
To go so that he could be there in like 3 hours.
Yeah.
To do the other leg of the show.
Saving the planet by burning it up. Yeah, it's brilliant. Well done.
We didn't have to worry. There was no such thing as climate change.
No.
There was no such thing as ozone layers.
No.
It was all just do what you want.
And busy destroying it. That's what we were to worry about it now.
We did not give a monkey's did not care.
No.
It was not even on our agenda.
Yeah, and then they just pummeled out loads of pullouts for us to put into landfill. But yeah, no, it was one of those moments, like you say, where people will always relate back to it, and all those, every time you go to a huge concert like that, it's reminiscent, isn't it, of those sorts of times. So yeah, pull out newspapers.
Allow me to give you another little mystery sound, and this is from one of the movies as well. And when you hear this, you will realise that movie trailers perhaps have not changed very much in the way in which they're presented. But I'm just going to play you this little clip. See if you can identify this movie.
In the 21st century, a weapon will be invented like no other. This weapon will be powerful, versatile, and indestructible. It can't be reasoned with. It can't be bargained with. It will feel no pity, no remorse, no pain, no fear. It will have only one purpose: to return to the present and prevent the future. This weapon will be called the Terminator.
Oh, I thought that was Trump's presidential campaign then for a minute.
What a build-up to a movie, though. It's just what a build-up.
That is not as good as the movie. The movie was outstanding, wasn't it?
It's one of those movies that still stands the test of time, isn't it? Absolutely.
It is. I don't think there is a scene really in that Terminator film where you go, oh dear, because it was pre-CGI.
Yeah.
So much of it, there might have been a little bit with the explosions possibly, but generally my kids wouldn't watch it and go, oh no. To be honest, they'll watch films in the 90s and 2000s and cringe at the CGI effects, but they don't watch 80s, early 90s films much and say, oh no, because they were so amazing at special effects then. Proper special
computers
effects
had not been invented.
Not to do
special effects like that. So when things blew up, blowing up. It's, especially if it was a big budget Hollywood.
Well, they spent the same amount of money on explosions as they do now on CGI. So, and now, I think until Jurassic Park came along, I think in the 90s, and nobody really had a proper pop at CGI, not properly. But yeah, what an advert! I mean, the adverts were amazing. These days, I went to cinema the other night. Kids are talking all the way through the adverts.
Yeah.
When you were going to the cinema in the 80s, as soon as the lights went down, it was silence. I might throw a popcorn and get excited at a Butterkist advert, but that was about it. Those curtains, when they opened up and the projector was projecting through the curtains with the Butterkist advert, rah, rah, rah. And that was like, oh my God, it's starting. Nobody would dare make a noise.
There was always an advert as well for a local restaurant. Bizarrely, wasn't there?
And the Taj or something.
I was going to say, it was always an Indian takeaway from the description, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And if you took your cinema tickets in, you'd get like 10% off.
Oh, okay.
It was always just the nearest. Can you imagine now?
Yeah.
You go to the cinema and it's your local Taj that's advertising on the big screen. That's not going to be a thing that happens.
No, I mean the adverts. It's funny because the adverts these days do move over to TV. You do, after a few months, they do put them on TV, and it always makes me feel weird sat in the lounge thinking I'm at the cinema. But maybe that's just because I'm old. But as a kid, you would never see those adverts at the cinema. Were just unique and special, weren't they? Just great. I used to love that. And then the ladies would start walking down the aisle with their little shelves of ice creams and the little ushers.
I'm trying to remember if you could smoke in the cinema.
Yeah, God, yeah.
And they used to have the non-smoking section and the smoking section, but the only difference would be one was on the left.
Yes.
And one was on the right.
Yeah, that's it.
No difference at all.
One could see clearer than the other side.
But you did get that through all the cigarette smoke. You got that lovely sort of beam of light projector at the back.
Yeah.
So you could always know where the projector was because you had that like glowing
as a young
laser
kid, just be looking up. It was great. It felt like something out of the future. But I just think it was a fantastic experience. But the seats were so tiny, and you sit in it and they go. smoke and cigarette ash and something, because they decided to move the smoking side to the other smoking side. A bit like in planes when they had the smoking in the planes. I think that came to an end in the 80s, isn't it? Late 80s, early 90s.
I am slightly older than you, but I definitely remember going on planes and having an ashtray just there so you could smoke back on the plane. And being at the time, like, thank goodness I don't smoke now.
Yeah.
But you would sit and chain smoke on the plane, and there was the other poor people who were in the same tube of metal that did not smoke.
35,000 men.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
I know. Well, maybe they could open the window. I don't know. But probably no. Back then, you probably weren't allowed to open windows. No.
Just bizarre.
Yeah, crazy. If you're going uphill in a plane and the smokers are at the front, they just roll back towards you. Yeah, I don't, because they still say it now, though. I don't get that. Just, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, this is no smoking flight. Well, where are no smoking flights? Let's sure go back in time.
If there are any flights anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
If you go to
send a postcard in, let us know. Somewhere maybe in deepest, darkest Australia, somewhere they allow you to just light up halfway through the flight. I don't know. Maybe on the little planes, where it takes 4 people. Just go, I'm a fag. Yeah, whatever.
That was the other thing, of course, going on planes as well, that you didn't have to go through all the rigmarole of taking your shoes off, taking your belt off.
No.
You just go through, take what you like on.
Yeah.
No.
Take what you like off. Take your bras off. Take your hats off. Yeah, well, you want to be relaxed on a flight, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're quite relaxed in here as well. We're at Spring Arts. The cafe is open.
Yeah.
There's a little mothers' meeting going on over there. You can hear the noise in the background.
Have a little get together. Why not?
Yeah, why not? So this has been our first podcast. Believe it or not, we're just about at the end of this podcast.
Time flies.
Just a reminder of the mystery sound. If you know what this is for the very last time, we'll give you all the socials and everything in a second, so you can remind us of what an in-sync sound is. I shouldn't be surprised if anybody got us wrong.
It sounds a little bit like me trying to get myself out of bed in the morning, just like whirring every bit of mechanics up, ready to sit up in bed. Don't stretch, James, because you'll pull something. Just slowly, all the different parts of my body getting into the motion. Oh, dear. What I am going to do, because I'm doing this for my tour as well, is I'm going to get some Bring Back the 80s. Just Bring Back the 80s t-shirts done, Andy. All right? I didn't want to get you too excited at the beginning of this.
I'm very, very
mentioning it at the end.
Very, very
I know, I can tell. And so what we'll do in future episodes is we'll give one of those away for the person who guesses the sounds that we do, or whatever our other quizzes.
But in the meantime, for this time round, pair of tickets
to any of my tour
dates. Your choice.
Yeah.
Which I think is nice. If you want to let us know your answer, probably the best way is to do it, I'm going to say, by your Facebook or your Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll put little links in the show notes on the podcast. This will be on YouTube as well, so we'll put links in there.
Yeah.
Your website is
jamesalderson.net. That is it.
That's easy.
I know. I'm old school, mate.
Yeah. So all communication goes through James. You've obviously still touring around the place at the moment. Other shows going on before the big 80s tour. What have you got coming on? Where can we find you?
Next weekend is the big Catherington Comedy Festival. So that's me and about 15 famous comedians who go over the weekend in Catherington. So that's a great time. Have a little bit of a break over the summer, then bang into the tour in the autumn, winter. So jamesalderson.net. Best place to find everything about where I'm going to be. What about you, Andy?
You can find me on the radio weekday evenings from 8 p.m. on Wave 105, a little radio station that I've been on for nearly a quarter of a century.
Doesn't sound right. You joined when you were 7. You started presenting when you were 7 years old.
7, maybe 8,
maybe 27.
But anyway, can we just say thank you for putting up with us for this half hour podcast of reminiscing about the 1980s.
I know. I've had a blast, and it's been a long time coming to this point, Andy, but we've done it. It's the first one, and we hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
Fingers crossed, we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another one. Let James know what you'd like to hear about. If you got any memories or whatever, talk our memories with your memories. But until then, we're going to put this out on a Tuesday, so we'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks for listening to this week's edition. We'd love it if you could subscribe in your favourite podcast app, and don't forget there's a video version on YouTube too. You can contact us using the links in the show notes and on the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time for another edition of Bring Back the 80s.